Good afternoon. This time I will be the one who will discuss about the methods of shading, which is the third part of illustration drawing. So first and foremost, shading means the process of making visible surfaces of an object drawn in an outline form appear in a variety of tones and values. Knowing those methods of shading is is an essential skill for us to develop and create a realistic artworks. So in this part, we will allow ourselves to pinpoint light and shadow area as well as the other details in a sketch or subject. So before we go to the kinds of shading, let me introduce to you the two values of shading, the light values and dark values. Values represent the surface receiving the greatest amount of light, while the dark values represent the surface has the least amount of light. So pag sinabing light values, yun yung mga yun yung part ng object kung saan yun yung mas nagkakaroon ng light or mas natatamaan ng light. Kaya yung isang object ay nagiging isang realistic. So, yun yung isa sa mga characteristic ng isang object kung kaya ito ay nagiging realistic artwork. So, shading techniques or methods has 8 different shading which are commonly used by pen or ink. But however, it can be used also with charcoal, tsaka many more other kinds of drawing media. So number one is hatching or parallel hatching. Most of all considered this as the most basic of all the shading methods. Those lines don't have to be completely or perfectly vertical or horizontal. It can be slanted or follow any angle you'd like, as long as this direction is uniform through the area you are shading. Second one is cross-hatching. It is like taking parallel hatching to the next level. You create a first layer of parallel lines and a second layer of the lines is drawn on the top in a perpendicular or nearly perpendicular manner. This technique is probably the quickest of all, due to the fact that you are able to create darker values faster than with the other techniques. Number three is contour hatching. This technique involves using lines that follow the curves or lines of the initial contour outline drawing. When used correctly, contour hatching enhances volume and the three-dimensionality in every striking manner. With this method, it is important to be able to visualize three-dimensionality and planes of whatever it is you're drawing. Yung contour hatching, nagbibigay din siya ng karagdagang shape sa object. Kaya mas nagiging realistic at mas nakukuha yung mismong shape ng object. Number 4 is stippling. When stippling, tone and texture is built up by applying dots in different densities. This technique takes time and you have to make sure that you don't start creating lines instead of dots. So itong stippling, na-try ko na siya dati. Kaya talaga nakakaubos talaga siya ng oras at saka ng pasensya. The fifth one is thick hatching. This method is similar to stippling, but instead of making dots, you make short lines. In darker areas, there are placed in an overlap manner. It is very useful when using oil pastels or similar media to create impressionist style art. Number 6 is woven hatching. It leads to a very interesting outcome when done correctly. This technique involves creating sets of short or shorter parallel lines in one direction and then placing another group of parallel lines next to it in perpendicular or near perpendicular direction. Number 7 is scribbling, an excellent technique to use when drawing a specific subject like trees or hair because it not only creates values but also transmits a sense of texture. Number 8 is blending or smudging. It is a method that focuses less in specific mark making and more on concealing the application of marks by either applying them seamlessly or by rubbing in the media use a finger or smudging tool. So now that you know the methods of shading, now let's talk about the parts of a shaded drawing. So when we say shading, it is the lightness and darkness of your pencil strokes. The pressure you put on the pencil will determine how light or dark your stroke will be. So there are 5 parts of a shaded drawing. So first na yung highlight. The highlights are the areas of an object where light is hitting the object. So pag magdo-drawing naman kayo ng object, pwedeng kayo na mismo yung pipili kung saan yung highlight part ng isang drawing. So pag naman yung merong instances na kapag on the spot na nagpapa-drawing, meron din dun sa part na yun na yung magpapa-drawing ay nagpapatama ng light kung saang perspective ka nandoon, yun mismo yung ido-drawing mo. So number 2 is mid-tone. Mid-tones in art are the tones that lie between the shadow values and the light values. So ito yung kasunod ng highlight. Una muna is highlight, kasunod yung parang medyo dark na part. Yun yung tinatawag na midtone. Number 3 is core shadow. Core shadow ay tinatawag ding terminator. Ito yung darkest of all the tones ng isang object. So, yung core shadow is plain parallel to the light source, benefiting from neither direct light or reflected light. Yung dark shadow o yung core shadow, siya yung magbibigay ng shape sa object. So number 4 is reflected highlight. Reflected highlight tells the viewer that the object doesn't just stop at the shadow but rolls around to the back, adding dimension. So sinasabi dito na yung reflected light, nag-a-add din siya ng dimension dun sa pinakang object. Katulad nga ng core shadow, nagbibigay din siya ng pinakang shape or para mas maging realistic yung drawing. So number 5 is cast shadow. Cast shadow are the shadows that the object itself cast upon another object, like the shadow that the object cast upon the ground. So kung ano yung nakikita niyong object, so yun din yung ina-adapt ng cast shadow para mas maging realistic yung drawing.
So meron po akong inihandang video para sa inyo wherein this is the steps in shading an object. Using a piece of paper and any sketching tool, start to draw an outline of the object. You can now choose where will you put the highlight. Begin by lightly drawing horizontal lines or hatching from the right side of the circle to a little past the middle. Perform hatching as the base or first layer of the shade. Reapply the second layer to be cross-hatching to have a darker shade. To have a darker shade, apply a darker layer using the medium you have. cast shadow to create illusion. After adding some shade, use a smudging tool or you can use your finger to blend the shade. Lastly, gently reshape important edges into more appealing and softer lines.